When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Merci.
Je connais le dossier. Bonjour, Monsieur De Jesus. Nous avons été avertis par la présidente de la
Mr. Rotrand, excuse me. I'm just asking you, please don't interrupt me when I start speaking.
You mean like you don't interrupt me every time I'm giving an answer, you mean?
No, I was speaking first, and then I will give you...
I didn't hear you actually answering the question. I think you were asking the services if anybody knew the dossier. I do know the dossier. But if you prefer to ask Mr. Desjardins, go ahead.
No, I think you need to fix your camera because all we see are your cupboards. But
just a little snippet. If you tuned in last night to the live stream of the Côte-de-Neige NDG Borough Council meeting, and just from my few minutes of watching and listening, I could tell that a lot of people not getting along in that borough. Let's hear from one of those voices you just heard, Marvin Rotrand, City Councilor in Snowdon, and the Dean of Montreal City Council. Marvin, listen, you've been at City Hall for a long time. In all your years, have you ever been in a situation like this?
I'm not sure what situation you're referring to exactly.
It doesn't seem like you guys like each other very much. There's a lot of sniping at each other and snarkiness.
Actually, I have a very different view than you do. I think we are building collegiality in our borough council. The votes are almost always 5-1 now. And even last night, Sue Montgomery relented somewhat and voted for my amendment. She didn't vote for my amendment, but she voted for the motion as amended that injected some credibility into building a committee to look at mobility in NDG going forward. So, look, I understand. She's under a lot of stress right now, and she basically played her hand very badly, in my opinion. And, she's alienated from all the members of the Borough Council, having problems with the directors, not particularly influential or popular down at City Hall. However, I have no animosity towards her, and I keep on telling her that. But look, the others are beginning to work together. You have Projet Montreal and Lionel Perez, who happens to be the leader of Ensemble Montreal and the leader of the official opposition, myself as an independent. I think we're coming together. Last night was actually a healing experience for NDG.
So that was 5 hours. That was 5 hours of healing for those who are watching.
When you have a situation where the priest, who happens to be the head of the 23 churches of the English-speaking Catholic Diocese of Montreal, has to go public at a press conference to say that the church he lives in, which happens to be on Terrebonne Street, can't hold funerals or weddings, and elderly parishioners can no longer get to services, you'd think somebody would understand and would have moved on that. But it doesn't happen in our borough. And you think with the impact on the seniors' residents and on the schools, let alone the thousands of constituents and residents of NDG who complain, that somebody would have done something immediately. The CLSC nurses were complaining couldn't serve elderly residents in the area, particularly at the seniors' residence on Terrebonne, and there was a total lack of empathy. So I was very pleased to hear a mea culpa from Christian Arsenault on behalf of the three Projet Montreal councillors, and I won't dwell on whether they should have acted earlier or not. The fact is we're moving forward. The bike lane that was, badly conceived, badly planned, badly implemented, not consulted, will be removed in the days to come, and there will be a mobility committee that's going to solve problems for different clienteles to try to get some dialogue.
You've got the unity, which is the five of you against the mayor. I guess that's where the unity comes from. I just want to point out, Marvin, initially you voted for that bike path, right?
Well, that's her leitmotif. You've fallen for her trap. Nobody voted for the bike path. There's never been a vote on the bike path. There was a vote on a shared street program. 200 things in there. Most of them turned out to be non-controversial, like putting a couple of bollards and saying, hey, it's $30K on this street, and painting some pavements. The services told us, since we usually consult, we're not consulting this time, should anything prove to be controversial, socially unacceptable, or impractical, we will remove it or modify it, and we don't need another council vote. That's what people voted for. And Sue Montgomery immediately changed it. well, it's a vote and it can never be changed. And as Lionel Perez pointed out, even if she was right, which she wasn't, at a wise council, when it does something and discovers that it's not working, it intercedes to correct the problems. You know, Elias, if you were the mayor of our borough, and you'd actually make a pretty good mayor, and I think you live in NDG.
I did up until last October. 10 great years in
Well,
NDG.
that's too bad. But if you were the mayor of the borough and you got a petition from 2,000 residents who say they're inconvenienced, and hundreds of people call the borough, not only complain about the bike path, but to say, hey, you've made it even worse by doing simultaneous major pipe work on 12 streets across Terrebonne, and you can't park on any of those at the same time. And the institutions are saying, hey, you're really creating a hardship, not an inconvenience, a hardship, you would have acted, but it didn't happen this way. Look, I want to say this debate was mischaracterized. Sue Montgomery's line is it's the cyclists against the residents who just don't want to accommodate change. Actually, most of those residents are cyclists too. And in fact, I was surprised how many cyclists contacted me to say the people who are complaining are a militant minority. They don't represent cyclists. They don't represent me. And what I heard from people who live in my neighborhood, because I live in NDG too, were saying, hey, priority should be to fix poor existing cycling infrastructure rather than to put an unsafe, underutilized bike lane on Terrebonne.
Marvin, I just want you to listen to a bit of Sue Montgomery on this program last week.
I heard it on Aaron Rand. I don't really need to hear it again.
For our listeners, they want to hear it, so let's have a listen.
I think Mr. Rotrand should really pay attention to his own district. This is not his district. I'm getting complaints from his residents in Snowdon about garbage, about chronic housing issues, about cockroaches, bed bugs. But what does he do? He sticks his nose in NDG, which is not his district, is not his citizens, and tries to turn everyone against the councillors there. To me, that is just dirty politics.
We got healing from there, Marvin?
Well, look, Elias, I have been elected by the people of Snowdon 10 times. They can judge my work. Sue Montgomery, I think, will be a footnote of history, accidentally elected with Projet Montreal. I've already invited her to run next time, and I'm not sure that she's going to. We'll let the voters of Côte-des-Neiges NDG pass judgment. No councillor is perfect. I told Aaron Rand that as well. I'm happy with what I've accomplished in the time that I'm on council. I think my constituents think I do a good job. But however, this program was voted by the entire borough council. What am I supposed to do when hundreds of people from NDG reach out to me? And they did, by phone call, by email, by stopping me in the street and saying the borough council needs to revisit the Terrebonne bike lane. I said that right away. And in fact, Peter McQueen, who's now going to head this new committee on mobility, was saying the same thing as me at the beginning of July. In fact, he wanted to have a special meeting to remove the bike lane. He just couldn't get it done. And it sort of lingered and festered for 2 more months,
Marvin,
which is unfortunate.
I want to just get to one other thing because I've got a listener bringing this up with me. I've seen Aaron Rand actually tweeting this morning about Cavendish, okay? And I would love to know if I know it's not your neck of the woods per se, but, you seem to be interested in the affairs of the entire borough. So I've got a texter here writing me that they've made Cavendish 2 lanes. The texter's writing if you can make Cavendish 2 lanes again, and what is the deal there? What is happening with Cavendish Street?
Okay. I'm going to say what I understand, and I'm asked the Borough Services to confirm. About a year and a half ago, Borough Council adopted this big package deal, and it really basically reflected Projet Montreal's priorities, and not all of which are bad, by the way, all right? And among that included reducing the speed limits on streets like Sherbrooke and Cavendish from 50 to 40. And doing that means that, according to city rules, you narrow certain streets to assure that cars do that speed limit. Now, I've seen the tweets from a staff person of Mayor Montgomery, or the information from a staff person suggesting it's because there's going to be rubber cement injected into the fissures on Cavendish and it's only temporary. My understanding, it's not temporary. So unless there's a revisit of the speed limit for Cavendish, it's going to remain this way. Apparently, it was supposed to happen last year, and it didn't because there was pipe construction on Cavendish.
Marvin, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It always is a pleasure talking to you.
Elias, thank you very much. And by the way, I'm just going to finish with one thing. Project Montreal is lucky you're there because you give them a fair forum. I think some journalists are too tough on them, some maybe a little too nice to them. And while I know you lean that way, I think you're pretty fair.
Thanks so much, Marvin. Thanks for the kudos.
Take
All right,
care.
Marvin
Bye-bye.
Rotrand, City Councilor in Snowdon.